So for all of our life, we have been led to believe that the amount that sits inside of your bank account is the amount of money that you have, when in reality, the numbers on your bank account do not coordinate to an actual amount of money sitting inside of the bank account. You deposit money into the bank. The bank gives you a bank account with that amount of money in it. And they say that as long as you have this bank account, then you can use online payments, you can receive direct deposit, you get to, instead of having actual cash, have a number attached to you. And you can trade numbers up and down with other places that have bank accounts. So businesses, websites, other people online, Venmo, whatever. Life becomes much easier. So everybody does it. The banks, after you leave and you now have your bank account and you start using it, you stay with the bank. And the bank has kept your 1,000 real US dollars. And you now have your bank account that you can trade up and down with other people. You'll spend $500 and they still have the 1,000. That hasn't changed. They just remove 500 from your bank account. And then you get paid. And so they add 1,800. And then next week you pay rent, and then it goes down by 1,000. And all the while, that same $1,000 is still sitting in the bank account because that's where the real money went. And what a bank does is it records how much real money it has. And it plays a bit of a risky game where it will go out and offer people very high bank accounts that they can use in order to spend and get all of their dreams to come true because now they have a bunch of money. But they have to pay that money back. And the banks do that because you can't just give people really high bank accounts and have them spend that money, because that would just be giving someone a bunch of money. No, you want them to pay you with real money. Now, they can pay you down on the bank account all the way down to zero, but you still have to pay interest. So there still has to be at least a little bit of real money attached to it so that the banks can pile in all of this money inside of the vault, which gives them power. By accumulating all of this real money, they are then able to make investments and build their money. They can go after people who already have lots of money and get them to deliver that to them so that they can grow their bank account. Their bank account can get bigger and bigger every year. Just keep giving us the money and we'll keep making your bank account go up and up. Now, they do a lot. They try to take it very, very seriously, but they're still humans and they still mess up. And they're still filled with greed and self-interest. The banking system tries to make money transfers between individuals and businesses just effortless. They try to make it so you can just snap of your fingers, send money where you want it to go. But in order for them to do all of that, there has to be a lot of people working with archaic systems from the past. There are new startups and old cards, and everybody's taking a cut of it. Everybody's paying their fees so that everybody can have enough money to still do their jobs and live. Because somebody has to pay the wages and somebody has to pay the CEOs and somebody has to pay the stockholders for all of this to exist. And the thing that cryptocurrency is proposing to change is to take all of that and just wipe it out. Just make it a computer system that does all of it automatically so that we can just send money from one person to another in a peer-to-peer, decentralized fashion. There is no more control. There are no more people who are getting greedy bids off of it. There's no more someone who can say no to you based on whatever factors they decide. There's no more oppression. There's just democracy. Our fiat money is based on the fact that we have to pay taxes with it, and other businesses only accept it. So in order to use cryptocurrency, we have to make it so that we can pay with it. And we have to make it so that we are paid in it. We have to adopt it individually and force it to happen, because it's not going to ever be just easy to switch. There's too many people out there who simply do not have the capacity to think about their finances in terms of how much they have in the bank account and where they can allocate which resources where. Those are the ones who are going to be changing last. Those of us who have extra resources to set aside, or those of us who are simply passionate enough about getting these central authorities out of our lives, we have to be the ones to take the first step and switch and push it into existence, because for too long, the banks have been getting rich off of us, off of the trust that what a bank account says is the amount of money we have, because we trust the banks. But the banks can't be trusted, and they've proven that they cannot be trusted multiple times. But they're the only ones we can trust, because they're the banks. Like, there's no bank version 2 popping up anywhere. Maybe some government regulation happens to make very, very sure that we can trust them, but obviously they keep not doing it right. We cannot trust the banks. We feel that if we ever go into a bank, we know we're going to be losing money in some way. You can't really have a good relationship with a bank because they're after your money. They don't produce anything, but they say a lot. So the way that we change this is that we take our currency and we demand to be paid in DAI, in USDC. You can pick whichever one you want, but we do need a unified system. And the difficulty right now is that USDC and DAI are not internationally scalable. They're not even nationally scalable. They could scale up to a much, much larger base than they currently have, and we need them to get as big as we can get them, and it's going to be a long journey. This is not going to happen overnight. But if I was to place my bets on the currency that is going to upend our entire system and actually be able to gain huge adoption, is Cardano, because of its technical capabilities. It's being built from the ground up to be scalable, and a lot of thought has been put into trying to make this currency real, not a way to get rich off of hype, but as a way of fixing a broken system, a way of changing the world and making it better for everybody. I will love it if we change the world enough that we are able to pay our taxes in Bitcoin. Maybe not Bitcoin, but whichever currency ends up becoming widely adopted, and just simply the system. Like there's no complexity to think about. There's just the system, and it works. It's permanent, immutable, impossible to hack. It simply transfers the money peer-to-peer and stores it securely. There's no millions of people, nationally based all across the world, all trying to do their own thing, work their jobs, communicate with other people. There's no system of different banks with different networks all trying to interlock together and form cooperation because they had to, because we had no other alternative, and because it was built upon old systems that had come from the year before, because this is history, and we're intimately connected to it. That series of events that happened before our birth, it all still affects us to this day. It's all real. It all happened. And history is our best glimpse in order to get experience from those who came before. We're not doomed to repeat our history. We can escape from the flaws that have plagued us for so long. This is a moment in history where we take the transfer of value and the transfer of ownership and stop obfuscating it behind large, hugely wealthy, influential institutions, millions of people who are all just trying to do their job. All of this goes away, and it's just simply, here's the deed to the house, here's the money. It happens in a nanosecond, and there's no government involved. There's no bank involved. It just is. And you can be assured, beyond you could ever be assured, that if you own something, it is not a question to anyone out there. You own it. And if you want to pass something down to your children, you can simply do so. Simply do so as if there was no government there, and it was simply a cottage on a hill that you had grown up in your entire life, and you wanted to pass it down to your child. You just did it. And then he starts claiming that it is his. because it is. That it's as simple as that. The blockchain is simply there in order to make it so that no one could question it and no one has to trust anyone, and there are no lies, there's no corruption, that everything is above board and being monitored. That's the point of the blockchain. It may seem like a great idea to argue for keeping the system how it is because the technology is new, because it's not ready yet, because you don't trust it, it could be hacked, because you like things the way they are, because you've already learned and grown accustomed to it, because you don't want to learn a new system. But we only have one human life, and eventually we die. And we have to pass what we have done in our lives on to those who come after us, our children, or at least the next generation. Remaining stuck in the past when there's a clearly better alternative that requires effort to get to, it's always better to put in that effort and to get to the better world as quickly as we can. Remaining stuck doesn't help anyone. And even if you could profit off of it, even if it could mean a more comfortable or stable life for you, not making the switch doesn't help. And not making the switch simply leaves you worse off. And I understand it may be difficult to convince other people, and maybe you just want to go along with what everybody else is doing. But once you have heard what I have said, you cannot turn back. You can't simply go back to a world where you use your bank account when you know that there is a crash incoming, and the only way to save yourself is to switch to cryptocurrency because it's run on the blockchain, and the blockchain is simply how value has been extracted out of our heads and implanted into a system that monitors and makes sure that everything is honest, which is what banks originally promised in the first place. They originally promised that they would keep everything honest. They wore the suits, they had the contracts, they had the big presentation, and they worked in offices, and everything feels so honest. But if you've ever worked in an office, if you've ever had a bullshit job, you know that offices are full of lies. It's just people gossiping. It's people saying that they're fine when really they are not fine, because everybody has to be professional, and that means you can't discuss what's really going on inside. No one can be honest about anything. And if we know anything about bankers, we know that they're not honest, because when it comes down to their testimonial, they sit there and they say prepared lines that their lawyers told them to, that they've been rehearsing over and over and over again because they're about to get fucking caught. They are so deep into a twisted dimension where they think that what they are doing is the right thing, but they are fueling issues in their lives that they simply can't get because they're pursuing money. And no matter how much money they gather for them and their close friends and their business associates, they're never going to get the happiness they seek by acquiring that much money. But there is something with these people who go to the finance sector that they will continue to try to get their numbers as high as possible no matter what. And no amount of money will ever satisfy them or bring them happiness. So the only way that we can help them, even if it's against their will, is to simply take that financial power away from them. It should not be in their centralized hands. It should be decentralized for us, for the average citizen. Which is why the first step towards bringing that future into reality is going to be taking your money out of government control and bank control by switching your fiat currency to a decentralized blockchain cryptocurrency, by converting whatever property rights you hold that the government certifies and have it instead be stored as an NFT on the blockchain. That is where the future is headed. That is how property and currency rights will be secured, is with blockchain technology. It is how we will vote in the future. It is how we will establish our IDs, our records, our legacy, and our identity. This centralized power breeds a world where our environment is invaded by third-party interests, even if it's something as simple as advertisement and an employer who controls your life in order to give you the income you need to survive. If it says something as simple as a bank is necessary in order to spend money online or to use a card, which is necessary to spend money anywhere other than online. Even if it is as simple as the government taxes you and requires you to register your ownership of high-value items into a centralized database that hasn't been updated in 30 or 40 years. I do not want my information being stored in a government database like that. It's something as simple as the government records you and tracks your information, and advertisers control and track your information that you spend online. All of this influence in our lives is not helping us in any way. And having all of these services instead be provided by a decentralized platform where no individual person or persons are profiting off of it in the end is a much better system. And when all of these jobs that used to be created by central power in order to enact their power, just like a policeman, is the final step that enacts the power of the government because they are the actual person being employed to enact violence, and that violence carries out the government's power. That is how it propagates, is through employment. Employment propagates central power. And when you have all of these employees who have bullshit jobs, or jobs that simply enact central power, all of those are taken away when we become decentralized at our core. We have to lead different lives, and we need an income from a different source. All of the people who are raking it in and becoming extremely rich under our current system need to give back to the community, because it is only through other people working under them and having that capital in the first place to purchase energy and time-saving robotics and automation and software that simply does the job that other people used to have to be paid in order to do. Now it simply does it automatically without anyone having to do anything or think about it or monitor it or anything. When this wave comes, people still need to eat, and people still need a place to live, and people still need to be able to hang out with each other and lead good lives and raise families and go on a vacation and see what this earth has to offer, because you were born onto this earth. It is a crying shame if you never see more than your own hometown because you simply can't afford it, because you aren't worthy enough as a human being to earn enough money to do more than simply eat and stay home and talk to nobody and participate at all in the bounty and plenty that this country has and simply does not share equally. That this world has. This world has incredible economic fortune. And there are also opportunities everywhere that people cannot take advantage of because they need to eat next week, next month. There's not enough security for them to take risks and innovate and change the world for the better. If you believe in the future that I describe, I want you to take the next step and become the individual that leads instead of follows. I want you to go down to the description, grab the referral code that will give you $30, and open a Celcius bank account to transfer your fiat money to the blockchain, where it is more secure, more protected, and out of the government control. Because as the government continues to inflate our currency by printing more and more money, by trying to fix a broken system, let us simply switch to a system that won't break. Let us simply switch to a system that is robust and bulletproof. The way I see it, fiat money is based on nothing but debt. Banks create our fiat money by simply lending it out and typing it into a bank account. And that's not a secure way to store value, because banks cannot be trusted despite them having such a central role in our economic system. I want to trust cryptographic currency as the only actual store of value, the only actual transfer and medium of exchange. And if you want to do that with me, grab that referral code and create your own future. If you like this channel and you like what I've done, I have listed my public keys so that you can donate to me in whatever currency you decide to use. And if you are not comfortable with cryptocurrency yet, there is still a Patreon in the description. Take care of yourself, and if you can, other people as well.